Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again from Film Fanatic headquarters. It is Friday at about 8:36. Hope everyone's doing good. It's another beautiful day here in Midcoast, Maine. So 3 days in a row, pretty awesome. I During the day I work a part-time job. I work at the Montessori school here in Belfast, and that whole gig and the job, the way it all kind of happened, has been just awesome. They're a wonderful organization, super cool people. The facility that I happen to work at is just amazing and gorgeous. It's uh, it's literally 5 minutes from my house. There's a lot of flexibility with the schedule, as long as I kind of give my boss, you know, at least a week's notice. I can get days off for for gigs, and trying to have this side career that I have, this alleged music career that I have. I It's very flexible with that, and that's mainly around gigs, or you know it's always centered around gigs. If I ask for the day off, I typically get out at 5 because I just started the summer session there. It's my first summer working at the Montessori school. And again, very, very, very cool. I started working there in the fall of last year, and very, very cool. So, and I'm slowly getting myself back to where, well, slowly, very, very slowly, but slowly trying to get myself back to where I was before the pandemic, as far as income and all those things. Most people, a lot of people lost a lot of things during that time, financially and mentally, and so, and we're still dealing with those things. But I was pretty much fortunate enough to make a living off of music with teaching and playing gigs, and I was getting really, really close to doing that. And so I lost a bunch of students and lots of other things, like many other musicians and other people in the service industry. So since then, it's been a slow process of kind of, trying to bring that stuff back and trying to get, uh, you know, reacclimated with this new kind of situation that we're in. And it's been good in a lot of ways. It's been uh, a slow climb back to, quote unquote, normalcy. So, and we live in a seasonal place, so there's only, usually 5 months or so where people who are in the service industry or in the entertainment business can make an income or make a substantial amount of money doing those things. This winter was a little bit, well, this winter was actually exceptional because it was probably the best winter I ever had here in Maine, because there were just the way things worked out. A few venues popped up and actually started doing having entertainment. So I was very fortunate to have lots of work through the winter, which in years past and in winters past, it's things slow way, way down, and there's, the gigs that do come in, or events that you can be involved in, are pretty pretty sporadic. But this past winter, there was a lot of activity, and which has benefited, all kinds of people. Lots of gigs to be had, and so, so it's always a changing, as we found out probably the hard way. It's always a changing landscape, where we live, and also in the world in general. And it's trying to navigate through those things and trying to adjust as things change and shift, because that's all that happens, and that's all that we can do. So, but the other factor that I've talked about too is, the weather here in Maine, at least lately, has not been very cooperative as far as rain. I haven't had to cancel any gigs or anything so far because of rain. There was one gig we played. I did a Quantum show last weekend, and it got, fortunately or unfortunately, but fortunately overall, we were still able to play. It got switched from a Saturday to a Friday, and that's the summer solstice. I've talked about the summer solstice gig for in previous videos. That's a gig that we've done for with my band Quantum. We've done for a very long time, and it's a very fun event. There's lots of people usually, but because of the weather, they had an additional day, so they moved things, a lot of the music, as an option for people to perform and for vendors to do it that Friday instead of Saturday. So I took the Friday. It was kind of a last minute thing. Unfortunately, Mike Whitehead, who plays bass in Quantum, could not do the show, so I ended up doing it anyway. It ended up being really fun and great. We didn't have to cancel, but Saturday was a washout. So if that was our only option, that would have been it. And the other thing with that gig is that if you do have to cancel, you can't make it up. You can't reschedule it. We have the next Quantum show that we have is at the Camden Library. That is scheduled for this Sunday. And that the weather is not looking very good for this weekend. So the one cool thing is that there is an option for us to reschedule. I didn't think that that was a possibility. So I'm excited that we can at least reschedule the date if we need to. But as of now, and I'll make the call on Sunday morning or so. The Quantum's scheduled to play at the Camden Amphitheater this Sunday at 1 o'clock, 1 to 3. That's another gig. That's probably, in all actuality, probably the gig I look to probably the most. That's a gig we've done for a very long time, kind of since the inception of the band. It's a beautiful spot. It's at the Camden Amphitheater. It's the spot itself, or the space itself, just has incredible natural acoustics because it is an amphitheater and there's like stone walls behind you or behind us. It's right on the ocean. It's a very cool, laid-back atmosphere, and I love that gig. And that's been a gig for us for a very long time. And that's also, I feel, a gig where I have, really developed the most and really learned the most, because we really, try to see what works and what doesn't work. And that's always been a little bit of a springboard for us to experiment and try lots of new material. So very, very much looking forward to that. That's our next Quantum show. And if it does get rained out, then we will just reschedule, which is nice. And then after that, we have a few other shows coming up. We have one gig that I'm really, really excited about is that we're going to be playing. Quantum will be playing at Primo, which is one of the most amazing restaurants in Maine. It's a real high end gourmet kind of experience. They started a music series there on Sundays where they had music. They would have a featured band that would play for 2 hours. They have this new setup outside of the regular restaurant where they have a bar, and they're totally a self-contained restaurant. They grow all of their own vegetables and their own meats. It's basically a farm that's on the premises too of the restaurant, and it's amazing. It's an amazing place. The food is just unbelievable. But they started this music series on Sundays, and so they have a bar outside. They do appetizers. It's a very cool, laid-back kind of atmosphere. You can go there. Primo is not a cheap place to go to eat by any means, but you can go there and spend not a whole lot of money. You can just go in for a drink, even get an appetizer, and you can leave without burning a complete hole in your in your wallet. But great atmosphere, and I think they have an option now to where if it does rain, because it is an outside gig technically, they do have an option now where they can still do it. So they have an indoor space. That happened for a show last week with a band I play in, Bone Broth. It was supposed to rain, but then we were able to play inside. So and it worked out pretty well. So moving forward, I think that's an option now for music and for other bands because they do have music there every Sunday. So we'll be playing there in July, and I'm very excited about that. That was a gig and also a space I never thought we would really be able to have a gig at. So very excited about that. Be playing a 2 hour slot there. Stay tuned for there'll be a bunch of promotion for that coming up. So and that's a regular music series that they do every Sunday. So very excited about that. The other show that I'm really, really excited about, which is a relatively new show, there's a really amazing little cool little bar in Belfast that opened last year called Sophia, and it's right in downtown Belfast, or right on the main drag of Belfast, the town of Belfast, or the city of Belfast. And it's a tiny little bar that is just a really cool atmosphere. It's very small, but they do have lots of music there. They've been doing lots of events there ever since the winter. I didn't think they could do that there because it's such a small space, but I have gone there pretty decent amount of times now, and I've seen some music there. I've seen a couple of bands there. One band in particular was this full-on like five-piece band, Becca Biggs, and they're a pretty rockin' band, and they were loud as hell, but it was great, and I was surprised and kind of excited that they were able to have this event inside this tiny little bar, and it was great. And they've been doing a lot of music ever since then. I saw some music there a week or two ago. So very, very cool. So we're going to be doing a quantum show there, which I'm very excited about. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be in July also. So very, very excited about that. And then we're going to be doing another radio show gig coming up probably. I think it's in July also. We're going to be doing another radio show on WRFR where we're going to be playing live on the radio. So very excited about that. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for promotional things around these events. So yeah, it's been pretty fun. And always in the process of trying to think of new places and to try to bring our music to, and to try to stretch out a little bit and try new venues. And we've been doing that, and especially with these gigs coming up. So very excited about future prospects. The other thing too that's been really kind of weird on the negative side is that usually this time of year, spring, summertime, that's usually the big huge time for all of the tons of movies that hit the theater, and especially it's usually a big time for all of the big movie blockbusters that come out. I mostly cover, I've been covering all kinds of movies, but the main thing that I love the most is the exploitation world. But lately I've covered just about all of those movies, at least recent purchases. But there's still a ton of movies in that beloved genre that I need to cover. But again, I love to mix things up. I love big budget Hollywood movies also, but it's been weird because there's absolutely no movies right now that I'm excited to see. I do want to see the new animated Spider-Man movie. That's really the only one I really want to see. But for some reason, I am a little bit reluctant to go to the theater to see it. I don't know why. I love the first one, but I don't know. I'm just not super excited and motivated to drop everything and go see it because I know it's playing and I've heard it's awesome. And I love the first one. I think it's one of the greatest Spider-Man movies ever, arguably the best in some ways, but at least the first one. And I've heard that the second one is just, really, really good. So, but I don't know. I'm not like chomping at the bit. The last few movies that I saw in the theater, I was, super excited to see, and I was just, eager to go. The Evil Dead Rise, I saw that in the theater. John Wick 4, a few movies I was just really excited to see, but I don't know. It's weird, and that's the only movie right now that that's in the theaters that I'm excited to see. But again, I'm not like, calling a buddy. When I get excited about going to see a movie in the theater, I'll like right away, like, call a friend or get in touch with somebody, be like, hey, let's go to the movies, and like, oh, this is so and so, it's playing here. Let's do it. Let's get some Thai food before, and let's do it. And usually that's what I do right away. As soon as I come across a movie that I'm excited about, that hasn't happened. When I go to the movies now, I usually go to the Waldo Theater, the Waldo After Dark. A lot of the times I can't always go to it, but I've been going to it quite a bit this year. And but their whole thing is they specialize in a lot of B movies and exploitation movies from like the 70s and 80s. And it's an amazing series. It's my favorite theater. It's my favorite thing to do when I can actually go. But as far as new releases, yeah, there's nothing. I was kind of excited about seeing the new Flash movie, but I'm just, again, it's that whole fatigue of, here we go again, another superhero movie. I love Michael Keaton as Batman. He is supposedly one of the main characters in this new movie. I don't know. It's weird, and I am not excited to see it in the theater. I'll see it when it's on DVD, I'm sure, but I'm kind of excited to see it. But I am on the fence, and I'm not driven really at all to go see it in the theater. And there's literally nothing else that I know of that's coming out or that's out right now that I'm excited about at all. Very strange. I don't know if it's because I've changed in my views or my things that I'm excited about. I don't think so. I mean, I'm kind of into movies. I'm if anything, I'm more into movies now than I've ever been. I get more excited about movies now than ever, and I collect more movies. I buy more movies. I actually watch probably more movies. I always watch movies anyway, but I probably watch more movies now. I have this channel. I have a Facebook page, Instagram page, so it's like part of my regular life. So I'm more excited now about movies than ever, but yet that happens. And back in the day, I would go to the theater all the time, and there were movies that I couldn't wait to go see, and I would be, I would schedule things so I could go see them. And yeah, it's weird. It's super weird. My favorite experience, pretty much my favorite experience, is to go into a dark theater and to see a movie. But there's been absolutely nothing that you know, and I don't know. I think it's just, I think quality. That's quality of certain films, and I hate to say it, but I kind of think the quality of certain movies that are presently in the theaters and that are coming out, I just feel like it's not nothing to be excited about. Generally, nothing to be excited about. And then the majority of the films that are coming out are still the fucking superhero movies, and it never ends. And that's the other thing. I'm burnt out on it. So, it is what it is. But today's show is on a movie that I love. It's probably one of my favorite science fiction movies, and that is Children of Men. This is a movie I've been wanting to actually get to for a very, very long time. I did see this. This actually came out quite a few years ago, but I remember seeing this in the theater, and I went into this movie. I remember it like yesterday. I saw this in the theater, and I went into it totally cold. Didn't know anything about this movie. I've always really loved, and I still do love, Clive Owen. He's one of my favorite kind of leading men action stars. British star who has just an amazing track record of being in so many great films. Love him to death. Sin City. I mean, so many great movies. Um, Julian Moore is in this. Amazing actress. But I remember going into this totally cold in the theater, and I just was like blown away by this movie. This movie is one of the most high octane post apocalyptic sci fi movies ever. The thing that I love about this movie so much too is it's definitely a sci fi movie. It's definitely a post apocalyptic movie. But I love the sci fi element. It's not so high tech. And it's not so far in the future where it's it's very much based in reality. I feel like if when these things come, when we have these technological advances, I feel, and I think that's kind of what's happening now with our current world. I've been becoming aware of these technological advances, and it's subtle, but then you're like, wow, like this stuff is actually happening. With the development of all of these new, AI technologies that are coming out through computers, all of the work that like groups like Boston Electronics are doing, where they essentially are making these robots, and then also some of the announcements that Elon Musk has made around these essentially these new AI robots for the most part that are these robots that he feels are going to be used in the workforce to for factory jobs and eventually replace humans. And again, it's I think kind of frightening, but it's inevitable. I don't know where that will go, but he announced this new technology called Optimus, where they're essentially these life-size robots that can do all of these tasks. They can problem solve. They're able to, fully be physically functional, navigate themselves. Pretty wild, pretty wild. There's a big thing on YouTube about that. So when I notice, like it's not the Jetsons, and there's all, we're not riding in cars that fly yet and things like that. But when I come across these emergences of these new technologies, it's like wow, like there is some serious stuff going on. But Children of Men is so great because again, it doesn't have it's enough of a look into the future where there are these technological advances, and but this film's also very much a dystopian movie. It's actually a very dark movie, but there is a lot of hope with it that comes with the story as well. But it's overall a very dystopian based storyline, and I have seen this movie many times, and I love this movie to death. Um, it's hard to believe that this came out in 2006. It's crazy. Um, Amazing cast: Clive Owen, of course, Julian Moore, Clara Hope Ashley, Michael Caine is in this. He's so awesome in this. Shichawal Ejiofor, who is I've just totally butchered his name, but he is an amazing actor. Charlie Human, uh, Pam Ferris. This movie was directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who's a pretty famous Spanish director or Mexican director. He's made lots of movies that are pretty good. He directed this one movie that I did see from 2018 called Roma, which is kind of a biopic about his life, which is actually a pretty good movie. Gravity was another film that he put out in 2013 with Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. It's a sci-fi movie to a degree. It's about these astronauts that get stuck out in space. It's an okay movie. I think uh, there is visually it's pretty amazing, but from a technological standpoint and the story and things that happen, it's kind of utterly ridiculous and just impossible to believe that any of that stuff is possible. You know, one of his best movies, Tiama Tambien, which came out in 2001, is like a melodrama. It's got some crime elements in it. Really, really great movie. Really great movie. He also directed one of the Harry Potter films, The Prisoner of Azkaban. Great Expectations, he also directed, which is a pretty good movie. He's made some good movies, but I think by far, um, Children of Men is definitely the best film. I think his track record is pretty spotty, but he's looked at and regarded as a really important director. But this Children of Men is just an incredible film. There's one sequence in the film where it's all one take, and essentially like a chase scene that takes place while the main characters are driving through this forest, and it is definitely one of the most breathtaking scenes ever captured on a film or in film. It's completely jaw dropping, just amazing, and it's all one take, and it's all like kind of one shot. So you see everything happening, and you see everything unfolding as things go. One other film that is where it's really really known as this iconic thing is the amazing Touch of Evil by Orson Welles. It has this whole famous scene of where there's like that one long shot for the opening sequence and starring Charlton Heston that is just amazing and kind of jaw dropping. That kind of way of filming you don't see it too often, but there's certain films. Touch of Evil, I mean, made such a huge mark with that use of camera work. There and in Children of Men, it has that sequence like I just mentioned. There's another movie that came out called Birdman, starring Michael Keaton, which is an amazing movie, where that film has lots of shots with where it's all like one camera, one take, and it's like one scene basically leads into the next. But it's such an amazing technique of filmmaking, incorporating with the use of the cinematography, but incredibly technically challenging. And how, basically if something goes wrong, they need to reset everything, and all of the things that entails is staggering. But again, this movie is so incredible. The premise of this movie is basically set around this kind of dystopian post-apocalyptic environment or society, and it has a lot of things to do with a lot of topical things that we've gone through in the last few years, as far as immigration. And basically the whole story is that uh, women in the future are no longer to have children. So, and there is all of this political uprising, and there is this militarization of the government, and they are systematically trying to crack down on immigration. And supposedly there is a woman who is being protected by this organization that is kind of an anarchist group that can still have children. So she's the most precious kind of commodity on the planet. That and basically the human race is facing extinction. So the premise of the story is just amazing. There's basically like more or less two or three little stories connected, but the basic premise is that the basic core of the film is that. And it's based on a book. And I read the book, Children of Men, a few years ago. And it's an incredible book. I can't find who the writer is. Um, but just such a great book. Very different, which happens, but it's very different. The movie is very different than the book in some ways, but equally suspense, equally in terms of like the suspense and the sci-fi element. It's just amazing. I probably like the movie a little bit more. It's a little bit more. Uh, Maybe the story is a little bit more. It's a little, the book itself is a little bit more complex, and I like that the story for the film is a little bit easier to kind of comprehend, especially your first time in. But again, amazing book, an amazing film. I read the book a few years ago actually for the first time, and I only own this great film on DVD, but I need to. This would be an amazing experience because visually this movie is super intense. It's kind of an unrelenting movie. There's so much incredible action in this film. The cinematography is just unbelievable. The music, the direction, the high level intensity around this film. The thing about this movie is it keeps you strapped in your chair. Like it feels like there's always peril around every corner, and there's an element of real danger in that more or less the characters in the film who are, kind of take on this savior role. They could there's a real element of danger that they could die at any second. The stakes are so high in this film all the time, and the odds are just so against them. And seeing how they're, particularly on Julian Moore and Clive Owen's characters, the way they are able to try to adapt and survive with not really having much at their disposal to defend themselves is just amazing. Just an incredible movie. It's such a thrill ride from the beginning to the end. Yeah, it's definitely. I consider this movie to be a sci-fi, but I also probably overall consider this film to be just a real high octane thriller. Like unrelenting, but amazing film. Clive Owen, like I said, is one of my favorite actors, and I definitely feel like this is the movie that made me a fan of his. He was supposedly at one point, he's gotten older now, but he was supposedly going to be uh, cast as James Bond, which would have been, I think, amazing, but it never happened. But one of my favorite actors, still one of my favorite actors. I need to buy this on Blu-ray at some point because again, it's amazing. Like I said, I think I would label this more as like a thriller, but it's easily. I definitely consider it also a sci-fi film, and I think it's one of the best. I just do. I think it's. I just love how gritty it is. I love how realistic it is. I love how it is something. There's lots of elements in this film that we are living through today, and especially these last few years. Uh, Insane, like at an insane level. So, kind of almost prophetic in its ways, or the book was. Uh, you know, a lot of the political turmoil, the social turmoil that we've been living in, the militarization of the government, uh, topics like immigration, building a wall, you name it. And how technology is creeping in faster and faster to people's lives. That there is a sense of unhappiness, this financial situation that people are dealing with. All of those things are very prophetic from the story, the original book, and these are things that we are experiencing now. And we have been experiencing. And to be honest, I feel like this book is so prophetic that way that I felt like there's certain things in this film that I thought I would never really be experiencing, at least in my lifetime. So this movie, how I think, really hits home to a degree. It strikes a real realistic and personal chord for me. So amazing movie, 2002, Children of Men. I highly recommend this movie. It's an amazing. It's kind of a masterpiece, I think. Amazing. So thanks again for your support. There's been a lot of folks commenting on the videos lately, and keep the comments coming. I love it. It's all about sharing info with other film fanatics, and it's nice to have some new subscribers come along the way. Really appreciate the support and love. So this is Jason Dean, and we will see you next time. Peace.